What does it take to stand in front of the Supreme Court justices and make a winning argument in a case for First Liberty? We'll talk to the attorney who's about to do just that. Hi, I'm Stuart Shepard, and this is First Liberty Live. This is the first in a series of episodes we're going to do about our upcoming Supreme Court case. These will roll out over the next few weeks, so keep an eye out for them on firstliberty.org and also firstlibertylive.com. Allyson Ho is the volunteer attorney who's on the case for us. Her day job is at Gibson. Dunn. She is a remarkable attorney who has an impeccable resume. You've done a lot, and we're grateful that you're here. Thank you for making time to talk to us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Stuart.
I'm really looking forward to hearing you make the argument for Gabe Olivier. At the heart of this is a hardworking family guy. Here he is, who likes to go out on public sidewalks and preach the gospel. Tell us what happened to Gabe Olivier. What's at the heart of this case?
Sure. So it's hard to imagine sort of a more First Amendment friendly zone, right, than a public sidewalk in a public park. And Gabe likes to go with family and friends and with passersby who were walking along the public ways, going to the city's amphitheater to see a concert or a performance. And he shares his faith. He shares the gospel with the passersby. And again, it's hard to imagine something that's sort of more in the heart of First Amendment free speech and free exercise of religion than sharing the gospel on a public sidewalk.
And Gabe is someone who does this a lot, so he knows what the rules are. He knows where the edges are and where he can stand, where he should not stand. He knows not to obstruct traffic coming through or harass people. He's just there saying, "Would you like a tract? Can I share a sermon with you?" And really, it's about as street preachers go, it's pretty low key in my estimation.
That's exactly right. But even that was too much for the city. And they passed an ordinance basically relegating what the city calls protests and demonstrations to a very isolated protest and demonstration area. And so Gabe and his family and friends showed up after the ordinance had been passed.
Yeah.
And the police told him that he had to go to this protest area.
I want to show people what that looks like. We're going to pop up an image here.
Sure.
Off in the distance, you see the amphitheater. You have this ginormous parking lot. Down there at the bottom of this image is a little square. It was spray painted the day he was there. They've since outlined it in white. But that little white box is where the city wanted to put the entire First Amendment and lock it away.
That's right. And being a law-abiding citizen, Gabe went. He looked at it, and he realized that there was no one around it. There was no way that he could share the gospel as the First Amendment guarantees him to do so. He went back to where he had been preaching and sharing, and the police told him that was against the ordinance. He told them, "Look, the First Amendment protects my right to speak freely and peaceably," and they arrested Gabe and convicted him, cuffed him, led him away, and made him pay a fine for violating the ordinance, just for not going to their I like what you call it, First Amendment free zone to share his faith.
His wife and some of their children were across the street. She looks up. Next thing she knows, there's her husband in handcuffs being put into a squad car. And they're telling her, "Hey, if you don't get out of here, you're also going to be under arrest." And she's "If I'm under arrest, what happens to my kids?" So she got out of there. It's worth pointing out, as far as the legal case goes, he was never put in jail.
No.
But he did pay the fine, but he also did not plead guilty, and that's an important aspect of this.
That's right. That's right. He paid the fine, but he did not plead guilty.
And then the next part happens, and that's what's at the heart of the challenge that's going to the Supreme Court, and that is when he went to challenge the ordinance in court. Describe what happened.
Sure, and I think about this as just when you think things couldn't get any worse than getting arrested and fined for exercising your First Amendment rights. Gabe did what citizens for decades have done, and he went to federal court. And what he was seeking in federal court was an order allowing him to go back and preach and share his faith just as he had done, but to be able to do so without the threat of being prosecuted
Right.
And arrested under this ordinance. And the federal courts have shut the courthouse doors to Gabe Olivier. They've said because he was convicted before in the past under the law that he wants protection from, he can't go to federal court to try to get protection against that unconstitutional law. And you might think someone like Gabe is the perfect person to bring a suit like that, because you don't have to wonder, will the city enforce the law against the exercise of his First Amendment rights? We know they will, because that's just what they've done in the past. So you might say he's the perfect person to bring that challenge in federal court.
We'll be at the Supreme Court in D.C. on December 3rd. You get to be inside. I'll be outside on the sidewalk interviewing folks and that sort of thing. We'll also be streaming the audio from the argument live so people can hear you making the argument before the court. You'll be standing before the 9 justices. What will you be asking them to do?
So we will be asking them to just open the courthouse doors to Gabe Olivier and to allow him to go to federal court and have his day in court and to seek protection against the application to him of this ordinance that pretty clearly violates the First Amendment. So he can go back to sharing his faith and preaching.
I don't want to oversimplify, but essentially, if he wins at the Supreme Court, his case begins, but if he loses, he's done. Is
That's
that
right.
a good way to put it?
That's a good way to put it.
Okay. All right. I want to ask you this, as if we were at a family gathering. We're in the kitchen. It's just me and Alice and my cousin hanging out. What's it like standing there in front of the 9 Supreme Court justices with them firing questions at you like a paintball gun? What's it like to be in the sheets? I know you've done it at least a half dozen times.
Yeah. It is just an incredible rush, because by the time that you're standing at that podium, you have just run a gauntlet of practice arguments and preparation for hours and hours on end. And you stand at the podium, and your adrenaline is rushing. And then once the argument starts, it's sort of like time freezes and just you are laser focused on the court and answering their questions and making your client's case and motivating the court to rule in your client's favor.
I've heard Kelly Shackelford say that when you're standing at the lectern, you can't really see all of them because you're so close. People don't realize how tight the Supreme Court is. What's that like you can only see like 4 or 5 at a time in your field of view, right? And keeping track of who's who and where they are.
It's an amazing experience to have. And one of the changes that the court has made in the argument, is that the Chief Justice will kind of go down the line and allow each of the justices time to ask questions. So that's sort of helpful, because it's not kind of the scrum that it used to be, where just everybody jumping in and interrupting everybody else. You do get a little bit of that as argument gets underway, but that's one of the ways that the court does argument that sort of helps keep everybody in line and helps you focus on each justice as he or she is asking you questions.
I remember not that many years ago, no one ever got through their opening statement. And he's also changed it so that you can complete your opening thought before the questions start, right?
No, that's right. It used to be that you would be lucky to get one sentence out. And so you would spend days on end crafting that one sentence. And now there's some variation depending on the argument, but you basically get 2 minutes, which may not sound like a lot, but it actually is a really nice way, I think, to be able to introduce your case, the legal issues, make the points you want to make before the games begin and the intense questioning starts.
I was talking to a friend about this case and the appearance there coming up in a few weeks, and she was shocked to learn that you don't hardly get any time at the court. In front of the court making the argument. It seems like you'd have all day, but it's really pretty tightly drawn down to a half hour, 40 minutes or so. John Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts, has allowed that time to stretch out a little bit, so sometimes it can go longer, but it still happens really fast.
No, it really does, and even the arguments that go longer, because you're so focused on the justices and answering their questions and making your points, that sometimes when I sit down, if you told me I'd been up there 15 minutes, it wouldn't surprise me. If you told me I'd been up there 2 hours, it wouldn't surprise me. You really just lose all track of time when you're
so laser
there at
focused.
at the podium.
There is a remarkable amount of work that goes into preparing for a day like this. You've talked about it a bit, but walk me through what it's like. I know later this week you've got some moot courts, as they call them. Explain what that is and what happens at those.
Sure. So a moot court is just kind of a lawyer talk for a practice argument. And so what I'll have is panels of people who are going to come to the case like the justices will. They'll read the briefs, they'll think about the issues, and they will just ask me as many questions and try to ask me really, really hard questions. And sort of now that I'm at the beginning of that process, and I have a great, amazing team working with me on it. You're kind of in that stage where you're like, oh, like this is a hard question. Let's really work and craft the very best answer that we can.
Yeah.
And if your moot and preparation goes, your practice arguments and your preparation goes the way they should, by the day of argument, you want that hard question. You want those hard questions because you spent so much time thinking how best to answer them. So you're excited to have that opportunity to take on the other side's best arguments and turn them around and use them to motivate the court to decide the case in your client's favor.
Do you sleep the night before an argument?
So one of my mentors,
That's a no.
One of my mentors said the best advice I can give you about oral argument is sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep the night before if you're not able, or just resting.
Yeah.
And it varies. Sometimes I'm pretty relaxed and at peace the night before an oral argument, and I do go to sleep. Other times the adrenaline's flowing a bit too much, and sleep doesn't come as easily.
It's all spinning. Why should Gabe win this case? Why is he right?
Sure. So Gabe should win this case because he is the perfect plaintiff. He's the perfect person to go to federal court and say, the First Amendment gives me the right to share my faith in a public park, on public sidewalks, and the city cannot try to convict me or prosecute me when I'm exercising my First Amendment rights. This is exactly the kind of suit that the federal courts should have their doors wide open to resolve. So we think he should win because he is the perfect person to vindicate the very important First Amendment rights at stake in this case.
And my understanding is, I'm not an attorney, so this is my simplified understanding. The law as it stands is to keep those who are in jail, in prison, from filing frivolous lawsuits that just clutter up the courts and keep them from functioning. But it's got a dead zone, a broken spot that Gabe has fallen into that's also keeping him and locked in to where he can't bring his case at all, can't make the argument when he, like you just said, is the perfect person to do that.
No.
How do you fix that without messing with the rest of it?
Sure, that's exactly right. And one reason that we do think Gabe is the perfect person to bring this challenge is because he's not trying to challenge his conviction, his prior conviction under this law. He has paid his fine.
Yeah.
He's done everything the law required him to do. All he is saying is that you cannot enforce this unconstitutional law against him going forward. So if Gabe wins, as he should, nothing in that decision would do anything to spur on the kind of frivolous litigation that you were talking about.
Very good. You're one of the premier attorneys in America. You have argued at the Supreme Court a bunch of times. You've argued at the appellate courts all over the country very successfully. When you walk up to the podium, they know who you are. I mean, we'll just say it like that. It's not like, I wonder who should know. It's Allyson. They know that you're the one who's just walked up. Why did you want to be part of this case? Why is your heart in this? Because you're donating your time. You're not charging anything for it. You're donating your time free of charge. And thankfully, your employer, Gibson, Dunn, lets you do that. So we want to extend gratitude to them. But why do you care? Why are you in on this?
So 2 reasons, I think. The first is I have such admiration to the Constitution of the United States, and especially to the First Amendment, that protects, that guarantees our God-given rights to free speech and the free exercise of religion. I am devoted to the federal courts, to the idea that the federal courthouse doors are open to all who need to come in and vindicate their federal constitutional rights. And I am a person of faith. And to be able to stand in the Supreme Court and help a fellow believer vindicate his rights and the rights of other believers. And one of the things that was so rewarding about this case is the amazing coalition of friends of the court who came together, all different religions, different groups.
It's an impressive group. It really is.
It's a broad and diverse group of friends of the court that have all come together to say the rights that are at stake in this case are really important to us too. And so they're standing with Gabe, they're standing with me. And so I know that when I'm at the podium, maybe it's just me standing at the podium, but my team, y'all are behind me, and this amazing coalition of others who care deeply about our constitutional rights, and in particular, the right to freedom of speech and freedom of religion.
He's going to win. I'll just say that. I'm like at a pep rally, so I'll say it that way. Who else wins with him? Give me some examples of who else would benefit from fixing this broken part of the law.
Sure. I think anyone who wants to go to federal court and seek protection against the application of an unconstitutional law, so that you're not, what we don't want is we don't want people feeling like they have to choose between exercising their constitutional rights and breaking the law and getting prosecuted and getting convicted.
Yeah.
We want people to go to court and do things the right way and say, I believe I have a First Amendment right to do this. And the court says, yes, you do. And then you get to exercise your constitutional right without fear of being arrested or convicted, as unfortunately Gabe was.
How can we pray for you?
Pray for my preparation. Pray for stamina. Pray for boldness. And pray for strength, and that just the Lord would give me the words to say when I'm standing at that podium.
Very good. And a lot of people are going to be praying for you. We are cheering for you all the way.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to share before I let you go? I appreciate your time.
No, just that it is an incredible honor to be here with you today, and it's an incredible honor to be able to partner with First Liberty and Gabe in such an important case like this one.
All right. Allyson Ho, thank you so much.
Thank
It's always
you.
good to talk to you.
You too.
Keep an eye out for our posts on social media, as well as firstliberty.org and firstlibertylive.com. Your support of our work is what makes all this possible. Gabe will never get a bill from us, and that's only possible because of the support of people just like you, with whom this kind of case resonates, that you care about religious freedom in this country and the ability to be able to speak about your faith freely in public places. Just look for the big red Give button on our homepage. This case, this victory, is something that you can be a part of. First Liberty, we are the religious freedom people.